Hey, everybody, and welcome to our last week together. I mean, really, can we believe this? I cannot believe it has gone this quickly. This is the start of our last week, and I am a day past when I wanted to do this. It is Thursday morning. I'm recording this, and I'll post it here in just a little bit. I did want to make sure that I had read everybody's half drafts before I got on here to make this video, so I saw if there was anything that we needed to be addressing. But let's take a quick look at Module 8, our last module. And this is where we really kind of wrap everything up. The biggest piece that we're looking at here, making your arguments count, this is where we are taking some time to evaluate not just what people wrote, like, the mechanics and the style and kind of that message, but we're also looking at the arguments that are being made. Like, was it a good argument and why? Was it a valid argument and what made it so? Did you answer the questions that your reader had so that they could make a better, more informed decision and change their mind? And it was an effective argument. That's kind of our mission in this last module. If we take a look real quick at the first piece that you're done, you've already posted your half drafts onto the discussion board, and you guys have been starting to make those comments to each other. Again, we're trying to spread out our comments among lots of different people, and we're wanting to do that on multiple days. That gives more people more access to have that feedback, because that feedback is being used to improve your paper, right? So we want to try to spread that out as much as we can. If you go on there and you're like, you see somebody with like several comments already, go ahead and go to the next one, see what they have. Look for people that don't have much feedback yet, because again, that's part of the writing process, and hopefully that will help them get their paper better. You will notice on here there is a list of questions to be asking when you look at those. Those are on there already. Again, we're really trying to be critical consumers of the message. We want to be skeptical. We want to go in with an open mind, kind of a blank mind, because it's like, here's an argument. Does it work, right? And we really want to be thinking of it in that respect. Now, the one thing I will caution you on, please be respectful of each other. I have not really seen much of a problem with that so far, and I'm sure that you will continue that. But again, this is that point where you're starting to make those critical comments about the actual argument, okay, and the positions that people are holding. So we do want to be respectful of each other, but again, critical, like, okay, you have a good point, but does this back it up? Or how does this work in this situation? And so when you really approach it in that way, that'll be the best way. And that'll give some of the best commentary to the original writer so that they can kind of craft a stronger argument. And then if we look at just the final draft of this paper, again, the guidelines are on there already. You're looking for a final draft of somewhere around 1,200 words in APA or MLA style, at least 3 cited sources, and one of those has to come off of the databases. The other ones can come from other places, and you are not limited to just 3. You can have more, and several people have been putting more than 3 sources on there, and that's really good, because again, you're presenting an argument, you're pitching your position, and you are trying to convince other people of it. And so the stronger the information, the better. As I've gone through those half drafts, and I made some of these same comments, but just in general for everybody, as you wrap up your final drafts, really think about that introduction. Make sure that you have a strong introduction that gets our attention, it sets the tone for the paper, and it ends with a very strong thesis statement that clearly states your position, clearly states where you're going with this, and how you believe that that is right. Now, in all the paper, we should probably avoid the casual first person and second person references. Don't say things, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. Let's try to avoid those. And first person really is too casual for this type of paper. Because again, it's kind of like stating the obvious. This is your paper. We know it's your paper. And when you say, I believe something, that's stating the obvious, because it's your paper. We believe, we would think that you believe this, right? Because you wrote it. So let's avoid those kinds of references. Now, if we do, for some reason, really feel that it would help but it would help your argument by using those. Let's try to limit those to the introduction or the conclusion. Inside the body of the paper, we should not have any of those, but we can, if we need to, we can limit those to that first part, that introduction. The best introductions are the ones that are really visual, that really give us a sense of the topic by showing it to us. Those are really good, and I've read several of those that had several of you have had really strong introductions. When you think about your arguments and the presenting of the arguments, really think about how best to walk your audience through that, the organization of your argument. Most people will start off with their best information, like here's the strongest point I have, and I get them over. And then I'm going to back them up with some smaller pieces, right? Some things that are still strong, but maybe not the strongest arguments that I have. You could also reverse it too. If you thought that you had to like really work your argument up, like maybe the audience doesn't really understand anything about this, they don't really understand the topic, or maybe they don't have an opinion yet. If you walk them through that, that might be an effective way too. So you give them something that you know they're going to believe in, and give them something they're going to believe in. And if they believe this, and they're going to believe this, and you kind of keep building it up, right? Organization is going to be important in this paper because, again, you want to get your audience to that. You want to get your audience to that place where they're buying into your position. Somebody asked me about stating the opposite or recognizing the other side of the argument. So that is not a bad approach to do that. Now, if you haven't done that, don't think you have to race back in and get it, okay? If you are thinking about including the opposite side, there's one thing I want you to kind of think about, okay? When you offer the other side, like some people will say, but this is why it's wrong. When you offer that, you are asking your audience to look at that. And if it's not a position they already had, you've given them a choice now, right? So you want to be really careful about how you introduce that. The example I always use is, if a couple's walking through the mall and the one says, hey, is that guy over there better looking than me? Their partner's going to look. And they're obviously going to say no, but they looked. And there was not just an invitation, but an expectation that they looked, right? And so you want to be very careful about that because, again, you are inviting your audience to do something. Make sure it's something that you control and something that you want them to do. I think when it comes to inside of the paper, be thinking about like the commas. I've written this on several papers. Read your paper out loud. Listen for those little short pauses because that might indicate where a comma would go. In the article, Food Deserts by so-and-so, we see. There's not really a pause in that, so you may not need that comma. But if you say something like, whenever we go to the grocery store, we tend to find, so you have that little pause in there, that might be a place for a comma. Be thinking about that. Also watch your subordinating conjunctions, especially however. A lot of people would like to start, or some people have liked to start a sentence with however, and it's a nice way to like shift the thought, like you're dealing with this thing, but we're going to turn it a little bit. That however is a good way of doing it, but we want to avoid starting a sentence with however. As a subordinating conjunction, we're saying this sentence is dependent and it depends on somebody else, right? But if we don't have that sentence already included, it makes it a fragment. So if you do find yourself using something like however, therefore, because, something like that, think about how to link that with its independent clause. We'll put a semicolon before and a comma afterwards. Commas, subordinating conjunctions, those are some big ones. Just really proofreading your paper, just being really careful. I know I marked on some papers that like, this is a fragment. If you had said it, we would know it, especially in like that kind of context of how the paper was being written and that delivery. I know that in spoken language, it probably would have been okay, but in written work, it's hard to see that. And the audience who's already skeptical about your position, right? Because again, that's how we are. Your audience isn't automatically just jumping in on you. It's easier to judge you than it is to judge that information. If they see those kinds of comments, they're probably, did they really mean that? Did they know that that was a fragment? And then I can start making comments about you and not about your information. And so again, it's a place where we can kind of control the audience. Let's take a look at the last piece let's take a look at the last piece of the module, which is the end of course reflection. So there are two parts to this. One of them asks you to look at the major course learning objectives. There were 8. We want you to pick one of them, and then how did it help you develop as a writer? How did that really help you? So which one of those 8 do you think was the most beneficial for you? And then the second part of this is that we have these 5 questions down here. We want you to pick one of them and use that as that reflection point. Look at using that and then looking back at your time. This was a quick 8 weeks. I know it was a grind. I have really seen some improvement in some of you guys. Some of you came in as good writers and you're coming out better writers. Some of you are picking up some skills. I've seen some improvements in a lot of different people in a lot of different places. And this kind of allows you to go back and do that reflection. You can do this at any time. You do not need to wait until your everything else is done and submitted. You can do this at any time. But this is the last major piece we have to do. One last thing before we wrap it up. I know in the module it says that there is a course evaluation, and you should be able to go in there and click on it and take you. And it's just part of the process, right? I know that, and I've been watching some email trains going through about how some of that has not been working right. And some people, and I don't know if that was you or not, some people have been receiving emails with the link to go do that. It's not working within Ivy Learn, so definitely check your email for that. I do know that Ivy Tech does take those comments seriously, the things that you say, the rankings you give things. People do take those seriously, so please be open and honest. Obviously, if something didn't work for you, please let them know so that they can make adjustments and changes and they can address those needs of yours, right? But again, be honest, because people do read these. People do take them into consideration. I will not see any individual responses. I get an aggregate report afterwards. These are the things that went well in the class. These are things that, need to be addressed, could be improved upon. If you do make any individual comments, I get them in kind of a digested form. I'll get like students talked about, and then it's kind of paraphrased. So please feel free to be honest in that. One last thing, again, I will just say this again. If you do encounter any kind of health concerns as we are wrapping up, please immediately reach out to your advisor and let them know so that they can work through that, help you work through that from the college standpoint. Again, we do have like 1 week left. I have to finalize grades kind of at the end of next week, I think. And you don't want to be caught in like a bad spot. And after the semester is over with, it's way too late to be able to fix that. So if something does come up, please make sure that you're reaching out to your advisors and getting that at least recognized and find out what needs to be done next. Guys, again, one last week. Keep pushing hard. I know you guys have been doing a lot of really good work. I know it's getting really hard now because it's fall, it's nicer, and we're done. But keep putting in that effort. Don't let up. Keep finish strong. I know you guys are able to do it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me so that I can help you be successful as we wrap this up. Thanks a lot, guys. Look forward to seeing what you have.